Hi everybody, welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
And today we'll be going through our translation unit for the month. We're going to start off with a bit of social media use. And in fact, just before we started recording, Elsie and I did mention a bit of social media. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't use social media as much as I did a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Even just a few years ago.
A few years ago.
Yeah. I'm not on Facebook as much. I don't post as much stuff. I've never had Instagram or Twitter or anything else.
Okay, actually, same here. I used more social media than now I do. Right, so do you think it's an age thing?
I think it is. I also think partly it's how, on Facebook now, so much of it is just ads and videos.
Right.
And so little of it is what I want to see, which is my friends and their lives. But I also think a lot of my friends no longer post regularly on Facebook. So
right. Do they use Instagram or?
Not particularly, and even if they did, I don't. So if I want to contact them, it's more like I have to get in touch with them, directly through WhatsApp, which is actually, better.
Right.
In terms of I'll get a real conversation, but it's more effort. So.
Right, and now for me, if I use too much social media, maybe during the week, I would try to, stay away from it.
Okay. All right.
I don't really like it that much.
Well, we'll talk about social media again a little later this month, but we're going to look at some sentences for our part A for a specific issue related to social media. So sentence 1 is, in recent years, the social media platform has been strictly enforcing its privacy policy.
今天的第一个句子当中啊，我们的中文是近年来这个社群平台一直严格执行其隐私政策。那这个时态呢，当然要用现在完成进行式来描述延续到现在，而且极有可能会继续延续下去的动作。
So the phrase in recent years is used to say that something has been happening in that time. It's not just a single incident, it's an ongoing process. But it's also a little vague. It could be anything from the last 1 to 2 years or the last 5 to 10 years. We often have to read a bit more to learn the context of what exactly that time frame is. But a good guess is definitely in the past 2 to 3 years at least. We can use similar phrases to talk about time and signal that something has been in progress for this period, but the fact that it's something that is in progress, not a single incident, is one of the key bits of information that's been communicated here. Here's another example. In recent years, Gareth has started to think more about his health and looking after himself a bit better.
近年来我们可以用 in recent years 来表示哦，那这个用法呢，常常与现在完成式来搭配，或者是现在完成进行式，你也会看到它的出现。还有就是过去简单式也可以跟它连用。那另外呢，如果你要表示意思相近的最近或是近来，好，那我们则是可以用 in recent times 或是 recently 或是 lately 来表示。好，所以例句说的是呢 My team has been working tirelessly on this project lately, putting in lots of extra hours. 我的团队呢最近一直不辞辛劳的致力于这项专案，投入许多额外的工时加班。
Yeah, the present perfect continuous have or has been and the VING form emphasizes that, again, this is an ongoing process. This isn't just a one-time thing. This is something they've been doing a lot. And in this case, it's a social media platform, which would mean things like Facebook, Instagram. We kind of use platform and company and service all kind of interchangeably here. What we mean is, in this case, it's someone like Facebook. They've been doing something strictly. Now here, we don't mean strictly like, the teacher is making sure the students follow the rules. It's similar, but it's kind of slightly different. It doesn't mean that somebody is a strict person. It's more like making sure that everyone is following the rules. They're not letting little things go. They're not giving out exceptions. Every detail is being checked. Every box is being ticked to make sure that things are done in the most proper and compliant way possible, and all of the rules and guidelines are being properly followed. You might say, for example, we have to follow government regulations strictly or we could end up paying a large fine.
这里呢，我们看到的 strictly 这个副词，你可以翻译为严格地或是严谨地。比如说严谨的去遵守规范，或者是执行你该执行的东西。那还有像是 rigidly 也可以用在这边，还有一个是 rigorously 也是可以的。那例句说到的是呢 Timothy always sticks rigidly to his diet, avoiding any unhealthy food choices. Timothy 他总是严格的、严谨的去坚持他的饮食习惯，避免任何不健康的饮食选择。
So in Elsie's example there with sticking rigidly to something and the one I used a moment ago following government regulations strictly, they're both talking about following rules. Somebody else gives you the rules and you go, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this and I'll do it strictly, meaning I will follow every rule. Here, what we're talking about with this social media company is enforcing the rules, not just following. That means that, yes, they are also following their own laws themselves, but they're making sure that other people are following them too. So they'll check all these posts that come up on their system or any activity and go, if it's not doing exactly what we say it should do, then we will kick the post off, we'll delete it, we'll ban the user, we'll fine the company, we'll do something like that. That's what enforcing means here. Enforcing the law is what police officers do. They make sure people follow the laws and they punish them when they don't. You might say, for example, my dad enforces our house rules like tidying up more strictly than my mum does. Which would mean my mum kind of lets us get away with a few things like not putting away everything all the time, but my dad makes us do it all.
OK, 所以在我们的例句当中呢，这个 strictly 还有在我们的句子翻译当中，这个副词都是用来修饰执行或是实施。好，所以执行政策、实施政策呢，你可以用什么字来代表？比如说 enforce、implement 或是 carry out a policy。那另外呢，中文当中常说的制定政策，英文当中则可以用这个 develop、establish 或是 formulate a policy 来代表。那例句呢，再给同学们一个The school board voted to implement a new policy regarding student behavior. 学校董事会投票决定实施一项关于学生行为的新政策。那还有一个例句也提供给同学，就是呢 The government worked closely with experts to develop a policy on renewable energy. 政府跟专家密切合作，制定了一项关于可再生能源的政策。
So in this case, we're not just generally talking about all the rules of a platform and enforcing them. We're being more specific and talking about a privacy policy, or you could say privacy policy. Privacy are both okay pronunciations. But what it means for social media is not sharing users' data. Some online companies make money by sharing users' data with other companies so they know what ads to use and what ads to target you with. Unfortunately, some criminals will steal your personal data and either sell it in a similar way illegally without your permission or use it for crimes. A privacy policy is all about how data is protected when it's already been posted online. And that would mean things like you agree that you've posted it and therefore it can be shared, or you don't agree and therefore it can't be shared. Which box do you tick? You can check it out when you go on the website. Of course, we also need to protect ourselves by not sharing personal information. Here's an example. Facebook's privacy policy allows users to control who sees the content they share. Everyone, just friends, only certain people, and so on.
隐私政策我们其实就可以把它拆成一半来看。那隐私的单字呢是 privacy， 政策呢是 policy。好，所以呢，隐私政策就是 privacy policy。那它指的就是呢，网站或是应用程式对于用户资料的使用声明。
So that leads on to sentence 2 for part A. The company is confident that it can protect its users' personal information.
这句的中文是呢，该公司有信心能够保护其用户的个资。那这个是个事实，所以我们时态要用的是现在简单式。
So by the company, we mean the company that runs and owns this social media platform. And as I said, we often use platform and company kind of interchangeably. But this company is confident that it can do a certain thing. If you're confident, then you believe that you're doing the right thing, you're doing a good job, you believe in yourself and your skills, your products, whatever that is. Now, you can be confident in something, of something and about something, but here we're saying you're confident that something will or won't happen, or confident that you can do something. Here's an example of that. Nick is confident that he'll get the job he has applied for.Confident
这个形容词呢，就是代表有信心的。那如果你要接续下去写出到底有信心的事情是什么，那你可以用 be confident 加上 that 再加上一个名词子句，好，也就是主词加动词的结构。那另外呢，因为有信心，在这边可以理解为确信事情必定能实现，所以我们也可以译作 be sure 或是 be certain that 后面再加上主词以及动词。那例句给的是呢 Madeline is certain that she will pass the exam because she studied diligently. 好，也就是说呢，我们这个人 Madeline 她确信她会通过考试，因为她用功学习。
And here we're talking about the company protecting its users' personal information. Your personal information is everything from your name and your address, your email addresses, passwords, ID numbers, bank details, and more. It's things that you don't want to share with everybody. It also includes things like age, birthday, family information, medical information. All of these things are personal. They're the things that you wouldn't always share with people you know, never mind online where anyone could see or steal it. And I want to add the point here that you often see things on like Facebook things that almost look like quizzes, like, you know, how old were you when this happened, or who remembers these books? But if you kind of answer that in the comments, you're kind of revealing certain personal information about you. So basically don't interact with posts like that. It's just giving away a few details.
Yeah, they just try to steal your personal information.
Indeed. So here's an example sentence. Thieves broke into Twitter and stole thousands of people's personal information. You could also say hacked into here.
好，那个资呢，就是个人的资料。那个人的是用 personal 这个形容词来形容。那资料就是资讯，也就是 information。好，所以个资呢，就是 personal information。那偷别人的个资，当然动词用 steal 就可以了。那另外呢，中文常说的收集个资，英文可以是 collect personal information。那如果是透露个资的话，可以用 disclose 这个动词。
That would be to tell people.All right, we're going to take a short break right here, and then when we come back, we'll be looking at our sentences in Part B. Hi everybody, welcome back.Part B is going to move from social media and the online world to the real world and natural disasters. Do you do anything to kind of protect yourself or your property from any kind of natural disasters?
Actually, not really.
No, I don't.Off the top of my head, I think with an earthquake, it's either going to be small enough so it doesn't affect you or big enough that nothing you do is really going to really help.
Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, the most I can say is if there was that kind of thing, I know in my apartment where the batteries, flashlight, medicine, and other stuff are, so I could grab them very quickly.
Yeah, or before a big typhoon hits.
Well, that's different because when there's a typhoon, like, you know it's coming.
Yeah.
It doesn't take you by surprise. It doesn't just show up one day.
Right.
And then you would be like, okay, I'm going to go out and buy some things.
Buy more food.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe save some water.
Yeah. I mean, water it's normally like you get a notice saying like they're going to turn the water off. But if it was like, is it last summer or 2 summers ago when Taichung, they had to like turn the water off every few days? Like,
probably last year.
I've kind of lost track of time a bit. But yeah, if you knew that was happening, you'd definitely be filling up buckets and tubs full of water so that you had enough water for basic washing and bathroom needs.
Right.
Because you know it's going to get cut off for a day.
Or put some tape on windows. I've
heard
that they're going to break.
I've heard both about that. I've heard some people say, yes, it's important. And I've also heard some people say, no, don't do that. Because that means if the glass does shatter, it will be in very big, very sharp pieces.
Oh.
So I've read both online. I kind of go with the don't do it opinion because I don't think it actually really strengthens the window much. Most windows are reasonably strong.
Yeah.
And tend to break in the corners anyway. And I think just having large pieces of glass flying around instead of smaller pieces, it's maybe more dangerous.
True.
So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the tape over the windows idea, but I'd have to go back and check, like, what is really right? But what can we do? There are things we can do to protect ourselves and prepare for these kinds of things. And that's what's discussed in our sentences. Sentence 1 is, as a result of frequent earthquakes, students in Taiwan practice earthquake drills at school every year.
这句话的中文是呢，由于地震频繁，那台湾的学生每年都会在学校进行地震演习。那时态呢，我们要用到的是现在简单式，因为这是一个事实，这是一个定律。
So we're using this little phrase as a result of, and that gives the reason for something, the cause that will lead to the effect that we'll discuss in the main clause. We could also say because of here or because there are frequent earthquakes. So when we're talking about earthquakes, we mean movements of enormous plates of rock beneath the Earth's surface that cause the ground to shake in small or big ways. So the first part of the sentence is saying, Taiwan gets a lot of earthquakes, and because of that, we need to prepare. The reason Taiwan gets a lot of earthquakes, of course, is because of its location, very close to the Pacific Rim, where two or more of these plates meet. That's why all of the countries along this part of the world, Japan, New Zealand, California, and the US, all of these places are subject to more frequent earthquakes than somewhere like the UK, where I've only ever experienced one earthquake.
Only one?
Only one.
Wow.
I'll talk about that again in a moment.
How many years ago?
20.
20 years
something
ago.
like that, yeah.
Okay, 那这边呢还有一个例句吗？ Do you have an example sentence for us?
Yes, we've got, as a result of Brian's poor attitude, he was fired from his job.
OK, 所以当我们要表示由于因为的时候啊，可以用第一种就是介系词片语，有 as a result of 或者是 due to, owing to 或是 because of, on account of, by virtue of,in consequence of 都可以，那后面呢就是接名词或是动名词。那第二种呢是连接词带出原因哦，那就是 because, since 或是 as， 但是后面必须要接完整的子句，因为刚刚说了它们是连接词。那另外啊，如果要以连接词的用法改写本处的话，我们就要加入动词，以形成完整的子句。那名词 earthquake 常见的搭配用法则是地震袭击某地，或是地震来袭地震发生，所以英文当中呢可以用 an earthquake strikes 后面加上地方，或是 hits 加上地方，或者是直接加上动词 occurs 或是 happens。那例句给的是呢 The outdoor concert was cancelled on account of bad weather conditions. 这场户外音乐会由于天气恶劣而被取消了。那还有一个是Many buildings were damaged and roads were destroyed after a massive earthquake struck. 大规模地震来袭之后，许多建筑物受损和道路遭到破坏。
Yeah, the earthquake that I remember from the UK happened, it must have been midnight, 1 in the morning or something like that. I was in bed, and I do remember feeling a little bit of shaking.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, not much. Because houses in the UK are not built like the ones in Taiwan to take account of the fact that earthquakes are frequent, so they're more likely to shake. And then I heard car alarms going off. Because, again, the cars were just not expecting this, so they all thought they were being broken into.
Yeah.
And then I remember going into work the next day listening to my dad's radio, because I worked at the same place as him for a bit, and hearing that for some reason, many people had called the local police to tell them about the earthquake.
Like they don't know.
Yeah, or like the police are going to go out and arrest the earthquake. Like, you can't do that, sir. I'm afraid I'm going to have to give you a ticket.
So how are you feeling?
It's just curious, really. It's
Curious?
Like,
Were you scared?
No.
Nervous? No, not at all.
It's more like, wow, so that's what an earthquake feels like. Little did I know that I was, a few years later going to move to one of the most earthquake-hit regions of the world. So, yeah, there we go. But earthquakes can, of course, cause big disasters. They're not always fun little incidents like the one I experienced in the UK. And because of that, it's important to prepare for them and know what to do when they happen. So this could be by having an earthquake or a general emergency kit with medicine, water, batteries, flashlight. Or it could be by knowing how to leave your office or home in case of a major one, like what's the quickest way out? How can I avoid the elevators? Practicing what to do is a good idea so that your body and brain can rely on muscle memory and experience, not just on, okay, I've been told to do this, words, or, oh, there's a picture of how to get out of this office, there's the fire escape is over there. And if you have to think about that when the time comes to react, it may be too late. Just knowing what to do because you've practiced it, that could save you a few seconds. And those few seconds could be the difference between life and death. And that's why people practice. Here's a sentence for practice. We're going to practice CPR on this dummy until everyone is confident that they know what to do.
进行我们可以用 practice 这个动词或者是 undergo 那例句呢给同学们一个 The athlete will undergo extensive training to prepare for the upcoming competition 这名运动员呢将进行全面的训练以准备即将到来的比赛
There are a couple of other ways you can use practice. Some people, you might have heard the phrase someone is practicing medicine or practicing law. In those two careers, it's used to mean that somebody has a license to be a lawyer or a doctor and is working as a lawyer or a doctor. It's basically saying they're professionally qualified and they're doing that thing. So practice can also just be honing your skills, or you could use it as a noun. It is a practice. I have piano practice, so I'm going to play for an hour. I have basketball practice. We're going to work on our skills. But these kinds of practice for earthquakes are often called drills. You run through the whole process like it's the real thing. It's pretty common in the UK in offices to do fire drills. I remember at least once a year we would have a fire drill where you react exactly as you would do if there was a real fire. Like they tell you, this is a fire drill, but you can't stay at your desks. There's not a real fire, but you've got to act like there is. So you go outside. We don't do drills for snow, but I think there's like air raid drills that happen.
Oh, we do that here too.
Yeah, of course, those drills where it's like everybody has to run inside as soon as they can.
Stay inside.
Yeah, I remember being trapped just down in a food court when we should have been back at work or something. But these things happen. There are other kind of drills as well. We talk about athletes doing drills, which is where they repeat the same plays or actions over and over again until everyone on the team can do it together without thinking. This is really important in tactical team games like football, soccer, basketball. So they might go, okay, we're going to do a drill on this kind of attacking play, a drill on how to defend this kind of play. Baseball players will often run fielding drills, which means they're just going to catch high balls for 15 minutes or field ground balls for the next 20 minutes. And it's just to prepare your skills for games. Here's an example. Our school has an earthquake drill every semester.
Drill 这个动词呢，可以是演习或者是反复练习。好，刚刚 Pat 讲到了很多很重要的用法。那其他常见的演习还有什么呢？像是刚刚提到的 fire drill 消防演习，或者是 air raid drill 也就是防空演习。
So let's go to sentence 2. Schools regularly update their emergency plans in order to respond to different scenarios.
第二个句子是呢，学校会定期更新紧急应变方案，以因应不同的情况。时态我们要用到的是现在简单式描述事实。
So things change. Maybe you've got new buildings or some buildings or parts of areas are closed for repair work. You have new technology or you need a bigger area for your students. So you can't just keep your old plan in place for years and years. You need to update it, add new information, do things differently so they won't be old and out of date. And you do this regularly, which means quite often, once every 3 to 6 months. So that would be regularly for a plan update. Regularly for other things could mean every day or 2 or 3 times a week. For example, you need to exercise regularly to stay in good health.
定期我们可以翻作 regularly 这个副词，或者是 on a regular basis。那例句给的是呢 The company conducts performance reviews on a regular basis to evaluate employees. 该公司定期进行绩效评估，以评价员工的表现。
So you do this to respond to new situations or information or other changes. To respond to just means to react to something. So change your drills, change your plans. Think of how the government here was always updating and changing the COVID rules. So depending on what the situation was with cases, we had level 3 lockdown, level 2, masks everywhere, masks some places, no eating out. Eating out is okay. They were responding to case numbers, vaccine numbers, new information about COVID to make sure we're always following the latest information. So you could say, for example, many businesses around the world are changing the way they work to respond to the possibilities of artificial intelligence, or AI.
因应，好，我们可以用respond to 或是 deal with 来表示。那另外呢，因应在此处啊，可以理解成考虑好状况将如何发生之后，事先做好准备，所以也可以用 prepare for 来表示。好，那这边给同学们一个例句哦。Customer service representatives are trained to deal with customer inquiries and complaints. 客服人员受训以因应顾客咨询和投诉。
For that word, inquiries, inquiries, both pronunciations are okay. So you change your plans for different scenarios, which means situations. So big earthquakes, small earthquakes, earthquakes that cause a fire. You can practice for what happens in the scenario that, these stairs are blocked. What happens if the earthquake's during break time, class time, nap time, mealtime. All of these will require the students and teachers to do different things, so they're different scenarios, and you need to practice all the scenarios. Armies will do this. You might hear this sentence or read it in the news. The army carried out several exercises based on different possible battle scenarios.
情况状况我们可以用 scenario or scenario， 好，两种发音都是可以的。那特别指的是预想事物在未来可能发生的状况。另外呢，也可以用 situation 这个字，那它就泛指事物的状况。所以呢，例句 The current economic situation is challenging due to rising inflation. 目前的经济情况由于通膨上升而充满挑战。
And again, for that one, you can say economic, economic, both are okay. So that brings us to the end of our translation unit. We hope you've learned something useful, and we hope you all stay safe during any future earthquakes. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
I'm Elsie.
Thanks for listening. See you soon. Bye.